like Adam's Masjid, and of course very many other projects. Yahi, how was your 2023?
Alhamdulillah, you know, in line with your introduction,
Yes.
I was actually going to say that we should all look at 2023 and how it was. For me, Alhamdulillah, it was a very good year. Despite all the different challenges, if I look at the whole year, mashallah, Allah made it very, very, very easy. Good achievements for myself, yeah.
MashaAllah, beautiful. From the topic that we had that was shared out, we say that failing to plan is planning to fail, right? From now, when you're wearing now the different hat of a life coach, right? What is the importance of planning for one's, talk about life, talk about financial aspects, spiritual aspects, or very many aspects? What is the importance of planning?
You know, subhanAllah, we think that these concepts, they come from, you know, business coaches and books, and there's so many different books that talk about these things. But if you look back to religion, Islam has always taught us about planning. If you look at, you know, from the seerah of Rasulullah, you look at different projects he took when he was planning his, you know, the migration for the people who are moving from Makkah to Abyssinia. It was planned well, it was well organized. When he planned his hijrah himself, he'd already spoken to Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu before that. So planning is something that you see all across Islamic history. All the great leaders, the Muslim leaders, have always been great planners. So planning, I think, is one of the most important things as a Muslim community we need to do.
So what's then the importance of planning? Because I mean, guys are like, at the end of the day, this life is as how Allah has planned or wished it to be, so decreed it to be rather. So why else would I plan? Yet everything is decreed. You know? So what is the importance then of planning?
So, you know, it's a very interesting point. A lot of us misunderstand the concept of qadr.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast just the other day when the Sheikh was talking about the situation in Gaza. And he said that as a community, you know, we need to take the action that is within our hand, and then we leave Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do the bigger action. And he gave beautiful examples. He said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he wanted to split the sea, he did not require Musa to do anything, but he told Musa that take the staff and put it on the sea and hit the sea. And it split. If you think of Maryam alayhi salam, when she wanted to, when she was sitting under the palm tree and she needed some food, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told her to shake a palm tree, and then he provided her the dates. The learning for us, you know, from these two examples is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do 99%, but you need to take action. You need to plan. You need to look forward. Don't just sit at home and expect things to happen. So planning is one of the most important things, you know, before you take any serious project, whether it is personal or business.
Interesting. Someone said, I was actually listening to a podcast again this morning. Yasir said by a brother known as Yasir Khan, teaching people about becoming the best CEO and all that. And he mentioned something very interesting. He said that, you see, planning, all these years he's been planning, but again, he's never hit the target, so he ends up being depressed. And I'm sure he's not alone. So very many people as well, they've been wanting to plan, or they've been planning, coming up with new resolutions, or by the end of this year, I want to hit X amount in my bank account, I want to hit maybe 4 or 2 packs at least, if not 6 packs. Basically, they just have plans at the end of the day. But again, they do not come to fruition, these plans, and then they're being depressed. So basically, they're at a point in life where they're like, regardless, you know, at the end of the day, this life is just planned, or whatever happens. So
right.
I'm just going to go on a free fall.
Well, that's interesting. When you talk about 2023, there's a book I read. It's called Atomic Habits. It's a very popular book amongst the business community, and it's actually one of the top sellers for last year. And to your question, or rather to your point, that people have these goals, and then when they don't achieve them, they get very disappointed. The author, James Clear, that's his name, he puts a very interesting concept. He says we shouldn't put goals. So like for 2024 now, the advice I would give the audience is, if you're listening to his idea, don't plan for goals. And he says, he gives a very good example. I'll tell you what he says. He gives an example of people who are playing a football match. He says you have 2 teams, and let me ask you a question. What is the goal for each team?
To win the game.
To win.
Yes.
So you have 2 teams, and they both have the same goals. But one team wins, another will lose, right?
Yes.
So does it mean that the team that won, for example, that they had not, you know, what's the reason why the other team failed. It could be, his point is that, you know, everybody goes with the intention to achieve the goal, but you might not achieve the goal. Okay, if you start thinking about the goal only, you'll get disappointed. Help me to get to the goal of the six-pack, and then eventually it will happen, and you will not get disappointed because you will be focusing on the habit. For example,
So you're
I'll go to the
focusing
gym.
on the process.
On the process.
Not the
end
results.
result. The result will come. Yeah, the result
Very
will come.
interesting.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's a paradigm shift. You know, it's a different way of thinking, because all along we've been taught, make your goals, write down your goals, and then, as you rightfully said, people start the year, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then they get disappointed because, you know, within month one, you know, you said you're going to go and lose 5 kilos, and you didn't lose even one, as an example.
I know, I mean, the gyms are always full in January.
Yeah, it's the best time for the gym owners.
It's a peak season.
Yeah, this is peak season.
Yeah?
Yeah.
January, the gyms are always full.
it's
Yeah, you
packed.
don't even get a space to train, you know. Oh my God, yeah, honestly, that's a paradigm shift. You start looking at the process,
Yes.
right? Interesting. And in this fast-moving world, and of course, putting into context our country, you know, where the economy is not as good, right? The administration is telling us to give them more time. They're trying to fix stuff. But again, honestly speaking, things are not as good, right? People are working. The FKE recently released a report that in 2023 alone, up to November of 2023, at least 70,000 people lost their jobs, right? So if anything, it has sent people are actually scared of their jobs. So for as far as planning is concerned, then for 2024, how does a professional, how then does he position himself, one, to either secure the job, right, to make sure that he secured the bag, and number two then, how then does he position himself to, for example, greener pastures or career growth within the profession?
So, you know, whenever there is problems, whenever there is chaos, whenever there's war, whenever there's a recession, there's always opportunities. If you look at the most successful companies, they usually became successful because of a disruption in the market. So back in the days, if you remember, we used to have these cameras from Kodak. And the biggest problem, and I'll come to my point, the biggest problem with these companies that failed, Kodak was the, for those who don't know, the younger audience, Kodak was
the it thing.
Was the in thing when it came to taking photos. You know,
Yes.
they came up with the idea of photos, right? And when this new technology came in for digital photos, they just brushed it aside. That we are Kodak. You know, they were complacent. They were very settled, very comfortable, and they refused to change. And what happened is, within a very short period, they became obsolete when the digital, you know, phone came. The digital era came in. The same thing you can say for many different business enterprises, you know, that did not change. You can look at Nokia as a phone.
True.
Nokia was actually, you know, nobody would have thought, you know, 15 years ago, if you said Nokia will be out of business or a very small percentage of business.
No.
You remember those days, huh?
No one would believe you.
Nobody would believe, yeah?
The 3310s of the
3310
time.
and the likes, huh?
Yeah.
You know, the snake. I don't know for those who know about the game.
The snake game, yeah.
I think the young audience will be like, what are these guys talking about? But to answer your question, I think whenever there's recession, whenever there's problems, there's always opportunity. And my advice to the younger people or those who are in employment, I think you focus on being disruptive. What I mean by that is not that you go and start rioting, being disruptive, but try and be creative. Try and see what can I do more? What can I do different? And the new generation, you know, that's the beautiful thing about them. They're very, very creative. So I'd say bring that creativity to work. Don't let this, you know, depression overcome you. Yeah, you be the shining star.
Interesting. And then, so for as far as, for example, the habits.
Yes.
So we're focusing on the small sizable chunks.
Yes.
Then for as far as the habits is concerned, then what are some of the traditional things that someone can do as a life coach, of course, based on your experience? What are some of these things that one can do to help them be better or position themselves better in this 2024 professionally?
I think the first thing is you look at last year. Sit down, take about 15, 20 minutes of your time, quiet time, where you don't get disruption, no phones, no people around, whether it is a study, whether it's a masjid, you know, find that space, and then write down what worked for you in 2023. What are some of the things that you're happy about? And you look at, you know, I like dividing your life into 4 different spheres. So there is your, you know, the business side, you know, the academics or business side. Then there is also the spiritual side. Then there is a social side, and then there is a physical, your own body. So I look at those, if you can look at those 4 quadrants, yeah? So one of them is spiritual, your relationship with your creator. One is physical, you know, in terms of your body, in terms of your health. Then there is social, how do I interact with people, my community, my family, my spouse, etc. And then mental, you know, what are the things I'm doing, whether it's job or academics.